Hi, Toby.
Hey there.
How are you today?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you. So I am your room host for today. Good to see you. I will be recording for us to be able to have uploaded at a later time.
Sounds good.
And let me get co-host duties shared over to you. Hold on. Okay. You are now co-host. So
Awesome. Thank you. How did the college fair go the other night?
it went okay. I think we were hoping for better numbers. We had captured audiences last year, so that was good. Numbers are lower this year than we had hoped for, but hopefully we can do something next year. I don't want to put Anita's the planner for this, and it's her baby. But hopefully next year we can do something that will be in person and maybe be a little bit more dynamic to draw more students.
Yeah, these are always really hard. We've all been facing that exact same question as events that have been wildly successful before are just dying on the internet.
Yeah, but then we're also not at a place where we can safely like transport enough students, get them to make it really like a really dynamic event in person. Not
Yeah.
yet, but hopefully we will soon. So we'll have to see what happens. So
yeah. That's 100% correct, because we're still trying. We were going to do some like engineering showcases on campus here, and we ran one, and we thought, if any of them could succeed, it could be this one, and it just completely flopped. And so we pulled the plug on the rest of them because we couldn't figure out a way to do it safely and still at a quality enough level to make it work.
Yeah. And then I don't mean to like talk about it like at a breaking point either, like a cost-effective breaking point, but there has to be like a certain, it's like, okay, well, if we can hit this minimum, then that will help cover everything that we were trying to do numbers wise, transportation, everything. So yeah.
Well, I mean, you do have to look at it that way. The problem is that breaking point is just one, it's this very, very tiny little window that we're trying to kind of slide into. And two, it's way at the bottom of the scale because of the safety considerations.
Yeah, and safety considerations are huge. So how do we transport all of the students we need to be able to transport safely, not have them some districts are not allowing commingling of just, outside of district. So with all of that, it's like, how do we do this? And then also allow our partners like, you all to be able to get the quality that you need in event, and then not without it like eating up 3 days of your time for us in order, for us to create that safety mechanism. Yeah, we've been trying to fit those jigsaw puzzle pieces together, and it's just not coming together kind of the way we would hope for. So
yeah, no, and we appreciate though that you guys are like pushing on the safety and whatnot, because as I'm sure you guys have seen, there's been pushback against the safety in some regards, and we've even heard it from some people here at UNM, like, oh, you can skip that part or you could skip that part. And it's like, no, we cannot skip that, because those are integral to safety. And like, not to be a little dramatic, but I'm not going to be the one to kill a student.
Right. Or a family member because they live in a multi-generational family. Yeah. Or, it's just like, I'm not, we're going to follow the guidelines. We're going to keep our out of school time program on level with what our districts need, period. So
yeah, give me 1 second. I'm going to close my office door.
Okay. So I have one person in the waiting room right now.
Okay.
And we'll just see how it goes, maybe talking with one person.
That works for me.
Okay.
I do know that Kim wanted to do, as she described it, an adventure sometime next semester. And so I was like, me and one of my colleagues here, Dr. Sawyer, spent a couple of hours just brainstorming some stuff. So I haven't quite gotten back to Kim on anything yet because I don't have anything really concrete to offer yet. But we do have, oh, check it out. We do have some more people coming in.
Yeah, we have like 3 people in the waiting room. Nice.
But we are coming up with something for you guys. Thankfully, Kim asked us with plenty of lead time, so we have plenty of time to think something up. But we are working on something for you guys. And
That's
I would
awesome.
appreciate you guys because you guys are like, hey, come up with something that's out of your normal routine. And I love that because if not, I get bored. So I love that you guys are helping me stay fresh here.
Yeah, Kim is amazing with stuff like that. And I love that she's calling them adventures because we have, because of her, recoined all of our field trips as not field trips, they are field experiences.
Oh, okay.
Field experiences require, we think, in language, maybe it's just semantics, but, a field trip, you're along for the ride. And so experience requires you to participate in dialogue and be interactive. And
well, that's exactly, we spent like 2 hours trying to figure this out. And the first hour was us picking apart what an adventure meant. So like
nice.
That's exactly it, was us kind of coming up with what this actually means and what we thought Kim might actually mean by this, and then how we could guide it through that. And it definitely made our planning processes, whatever you're going to get is going to be way better because you use the word adventure instead of field trip.
Yeah. We're staying away from the word field trip, and we're staying away from the term learning gaps. These are 2 terms that we believe will often pigeonhole our students. So yeah, no learning gaps. They're just like, we have knowledge, we have a knowledge base, and we need to be able to fill our knowledge base, build on our knowledge base. So we're hoping our kids are okay with that. So I'm going to give it 1 more minute before I let kids into the room.
Sounds good.
And I'm super excited to see a middle schooler coming in. That is another thing. We've really decided that because we are targeted to Title I schools, and we really want to hit our first generation students, that we need to start building our conversations, not at the high school level, but at the middle school level, so they know what electives to be taking when they get to high school, and really building on those conversations. So I'm glad to see a few middle schoolers interested in the idea of participating in college dialogue at an earlier age.
I'm so glad you guys are doing that because I've been trying to figure out how to do that on my end, but my hands are very, very tied based off of the exact job description of what like they told me I could do. And so I'm trying to sneak stuff into middle schoolers, but like my hands are really tied. So I'm very glad to see you guys are doing that because.
Well, if you guys have ideas, like if you have ideas and you say this is where we can work up to, and that's our limitation, let me, because that's where we want to jump in and fill that in. So, yeah. Oh, awesome. Okay, we have 2 kids from middle school. I'm excited to see our middle schoolers because they need to build that identity somewhere. A first generation college graduate, I know myself that my conversation with my parents was very different than my conversations with my kids.
Same. Although I don't have kids, but like as compared to like my friends who their parents not only went to college but were lawyers, doctors, pharmacists, etc. And my parents who were like, bro, we're just happy that you graduated high school without knocking a chick up, which was the exact thing my mom said to me. I know that language is kind of offensive, but like that's the exact quote.
I know exactly what you're saying. My sister and I had this conversation recently as I was trying to figure out dialogue. I'm gonna go ahead and open the room up now.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, we have a nice little group here. This is great. Okay. we have a few more people, well, at least one more person coming in. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ling Faith Hewitts, and I'm Executive Director here at New Mexico MESA. I want to welcome you all today to our virtual college and career fair and to this particular event with UNM College of Engineering and Toby Tafoya. We'll be walking us through, I'm sure, a really awesome experience today in discussing what UNM College of Engineering has to offer. We're going to ask that you please do keep yourself muted unless you have a question that you do want to be able to ask at some point. You can also put things in the chat for us. This session will be recorded. So I wanted to let you know that. So you have the option of keeping your camera off. Of course, we would love to see your faces at some point if you're at all comfortable with doing that. Thank you if you could. I think if you get bumped out, if you have bad Wi-Fi or whatever, just come back in and we'll let you back in as quickly as we can into the session. Again, this will be recorded. If you have any need to come back to the video at some point later on, we will have access to that. And Anita will be giving instructions on that later after the event is over. So with no further ado, Toby Tafoya from UNM College of Engineering. And I'm going to, oh, we are recording. Great. Okay. All right, everyone.
Well, hello, everybody. I am very excited to be here. As was mentioned earlier, my name is Toby, and I am the recruiter for the School of Engineering. So I know I'm going to start off kind of in an area that you guys aren't going to expect me to start off with. I'm going to start off with a little bit of a personal touch to this because something important happened yesterday. So I'm going to tie this all back together. So growing up, I didn't grow up in some of the best of circumstances. And I'll be honest, I grew up homeless, I grew up abused, and I grew up very intimidated by a lot of these concepts of engineering and whatnot. And so with that in mind, I didn't pursue engineering. I pursued psychology and sociology. And while I love those things, my biggest regret in life was not pursuing engineering. And I'm actually going to go back to school for it now here when I finish up a master's degree. But part of the reason why I didn't do engineering or whatnot is because of the way I grew up. I honestly didn't think I'd make it this far. I honestly thought I would kind of not even get anywhere close to this. And now look at where I am. I have, I'm 2 degrees deep. I'm working on a master's degree. And my point is I could have been doing all of this a long time ago. And so what I really want you to consider as I'm telling you all of these things is, yeah, they seem kind of big. Yeah, they seem kind of scary, but there's a very, very important place for you, for specifically your voice in all of these. And so I really want you guys to consider that not only do you belong, but that we absolutely need you. We need your voice. We need your unique point of view in these fields of engineering. So again, what I'm going to talk about might seem a little intimidating, but that's because we're doing it at a very, very high level. But we're not going to expect you to do it at this high level to begin with. We're going to introduce you to it and kind of walk you into it. So that way you're not coming in trying to do this very complicated stuff from day one. You will be doing engineering from day one here at UNM, but you're not going to be, trying to be thrown into the deep end, if you will. We're going to teach you how to swim first. So I don't want you guys to feel scared by any of this because I know that was my first reaction to a lot of this when I was in high school, which was ridiculous because I actually graduated valedictorian and I was very talented at math. And even I was scared of this. So I don't want you guys to be worried about any of that kind of stuff because this is absolutely the kind of school that will take care of you guys. Now, with that in mind, let's talk about the engineering, right? Now, this works a lot better if you guys kind of interact with me. So I'm going to ask you guys actually I know we asked you guys to have your mics muted, but when I do ask questions, I'm going to ask you guys to participate with me. So what do you guys think engineering is? Anybody?
We have in the chat solving problems with math and science.
Okay, great. that's a very good way of looking at it. We're going to go a little bit broader here.
Another one in the chat. Another one in the chat is improving processes and making stuff.
I actually love that answer too. That's actually, I've never heard that one from a student before, but I really like that answer. So the working definition and the operational definition that we're going to use today is a way of questioning, thinking about, and solving challenges. You'll notice that there's not necessarily a scientific basis to this. You'll notice that there's not necessarily a philosophical basis to this. You'll notice that there's not necessarily a mathematical basis to this. It's just a way of questioning, thinking about, and solving challenges. You can do all kinds of engineering that aren't necessarily science or technology based, that aren't necessarily math based. You can, now, math, science, and technology absolutely help the process of engineering, but you can do engineering in a whole bunch of ways. But of course, engineering is better when you have math, science, and tech involved. But the very, very important thing that I really want to get across to you is that there is not a single thing that you can dream about. There is not a single thing that you can think about in class instead of paying attention to what your teacher's talking about. There's not a single thing that you can read about or watch on TV or see a movie of or anything along those lines so that you do not encounter on your day-to-day basis that is not engineering connected. I don't care what you think it is, there is some kind of significant engineering connection to it. That's the really important part. So you guys probably already have ideas of what kind of engineering you want to do if you're here at a STEM kind of presentation, but I want you guys to even try to further broaden that field of view, because I want you guys to not get pigeonholed in your thinking. I want you guys to imagine everything you guys are already on the path towards and try to expand it tenfold and see how much further you could get to. You see this picture here and all these random items that are seemingly unconnected are connected. And I can make a serious case for every single one of the connections that is on here. And in fact, before I put this picture on my slide, the reason I put it on here was because I did make a serious connection to myself that I thought was justifiable for every single one of the connections that is made on here. So I really want you guys to keep that in mind, that it is an important part of engineering that every single aspect is connected, that every piece of technology you work on has a ripple effect throughout the field of science, of technology, of engineering, and that, you know, throughout society in general, right? One of the very important ripple effects that happened long ago was when the PlayStation 2 came out. They really helped improve graphics for computers, for TVs, for video games and whatnot. Well, some of those graphic improvements that they had made were public licensing algorithms that had been improved on by NASA. And so healthcare experts got their hands on them and they started using them for MRIs, X-rays, CT scans, ultrasounds, stuff like that. And so we got better patient healthcare because we got better imaging, and we got the better imaging because people wanted better graphics for their PlayStation. So it's very important to understand that things that are seemingly worlds apart are absolutely connected no matter how you look at it. And so I want you guys to really keep that in mind. Is again, no matter what technology or what engineering you work on, you are making a difference in the world. Now, here's the things that we at UNM are looking for our engineering students.
Are you screen sharing? Because we're not seeing it, sorry.
Oh, I thought I was screen sharing. My apologies here. Let me try that again. Thought I was.
Sorry, I didn't realize.
There we go. Nope, you were good.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, cool. So here's the slide I was just talking about, guys, with all the randomly connected stuff. That makes a lot more sense why you guys probably were like, what is he talking about? So again, I can justify everything on here that's connected, but here are the things that we look for our engineers. And I'm telling you this now, even though I know some of you guys are middle schoolers, because these are traits that I really want you guys to start seeing if you have it instilled in you. There's no GPA requirement on here. There's no SAT or ACT requirement on here. And there's a couple of reasons for those. One, You guys probably know who Neil Armstrong is, right? First man to walk on the moon. Somebody give me a guess. What do you guys think his high school GPA was? And go ahead and either shout it out loud or throw it in the chat box. A 3.0, 2.5, a 2.0. So his high school GPA was actually a 2.9, a 2.9 GPA. First man to walk on the moon was a 2.9 GPA student in high school. So my point being is we can get you help on your GPA. We're not too worried about your GPA, all right? And on the flip side of it, we don't care about your ACT or your SAT scores because those are old and outdated. We don't need those anymore. We have moved past those, all right? Really what we care about, and I know I have a list of things on here, but I care about two things. I care, can you be curious and can you be humble? And really what both of these boil down to, guys, is your ability to ask questions. One is your ability to come up with questions, and the other one is your ability to ask them. So in terms of curiosity, if you're going to be an engineer, it's pointless to memorize facts, right? Albert Einstein once said that he didn't memorize the speed of light because there was a book that could tell him. Now, I'm not saying it's not important to know stuff, but it's very important to know what to do with it, right? To have the same access to the knowledge that everybody else does, but know how to look at it, know how to do things with it, know what questions to ask, know what it means in context and out of context. The example that I always use is an engineer knows how to do things with the same material that other people don't. And so, for example, my wife and I have access to the exact same baking supplies. I know this because I bought her most of those baking supplies for Valentine's Day or anniversaries or that kind of stuff. Now, I can barely burn my toast in the morning, whereas my wife can make these beautiful multi-layered Harry Potter cupcakes that, you know, when you bite into them, they sort you into the different Harry Potter houses. They're absolutely gorgeous. And we have access to the exact same material, but that's the difference training and practice and skill can get you. And that's the big thing with an engineer. Anybody can memorize facts. That's just a matter of buying the right flashcards, right? Engineers don't just memorize facts. They know how to use them to build information, right? And the second one is humility, because the ultimate team sport is engineering, right? It doesn't matter how specialized or expert you become, you're going to be working on a team. And so I need you guys to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. Not only is it okay, it's the best skill you can ever achieve. And so with that in mind, as an engineer, you are quite literally trying to do the impossible. So there's going to be a lot of things you just don't know. That's quite literally the point of all of the engineering that we do, is we're trying to figure out solutions for things that have never been done before. Ask for help. Nobody thinks you're dumb. Nobody thinks you're stupid. Everybody is, in fact, impressed by a good question. So please ask for help, right? Formulate good questions, ask for help. And the way you know it's a good question is, are you asking it in good faith? That's the only rule. They say there's no such thing as a dumb question. That is absolutely true as long as you're asking the question in good faith. So please keep that in mind. That's all I need from you. So let's talk about the actual engineering. This is the stuff that I get really excited by. This is the stuff that I nerd out about. When I say nerd, please know that I mean that absolutely lovingly. I absolutely consider myself one of the many nerds amongst us. In fact, I have a Lego Millennium Falcon hanging on my wall, so I'm very proud of that fact. Also, please know that I get very excited when I'm talking about this stuff. I talk very, very quickly. In fact, when I joined the Army, they gave me a machine gun because they said it's the only thing that could keep up with my mouth. So if I talk too fast about a subject or a topic, please feel free to throw a question in the chat box, and I will be happy to answer whatever it is. I do have the chat box up here, so I'll be happy to answer your question. So let's talk about engineering. We do have 6 departments of engineering here, but these are not the only 6 disciplines that we have. So off the bat, you can see that we have things like chemical and biological engineering, or civil construction and environmental engineering. That's 2 departments, 5 disciplines right off the bat, right? We don't have an aerospace engineering department, but that's because aerospace fits very neatly under our mechanical engineering department, right? We don't have things like energy engineering, but that's because energy engineering pretty much falls under all 6 of them. We don't have a biomedical engineering department, but that's because biomedicine, much like the Avengers, you need all 6 of them to working together to make it happen, right? So just because we don't have a discipline listed here doesn't mean we don't offer it in some kind of significant way. So if I don't touch on something that you're interested in, again, please let me know what it is, and I'll be happy to let you know where it fits within our puzzle pieces. So the other thing you're going to notice is that we have 2 that focus on computers. One is electrical and computer engineering. The other one here is computer science. Love the question, Elias, because you are right on time. You perfect timing here, right in rhythm, because computers is good, or computer science is going to be much more programming. Computer science, at least here at UNM, tends to focus a lot on the programming. It's pretty much pure software, whereas ECE, electrical and computer engineering, is going to be much more the actual hardware side of things. If you're looking at doing robotic and programming, you're going to want to do computer engineering. Mechanical engineering also does have robotics, but it tends to focus on the actual movement portion of the robots, whereas computer engineering tends to focus on the programming of the robots. But that was a great question. Love it already off the bat. So let's jump right on in. So guys, I want you guys to kind of see chemical and I want you kind of to see the engineering titles, the department titles, as kind of translatable words. And so what I mean by that is, if you take engineering, take the word engineering and you just translate it out to problem solving, right? For any one of our departments. And then you already know what chemistry and biology are, right? So it's just problem solving with chemistry and biology, right? Problem solving for civil and construction problems, right? Computer science is absolutely a form of engineering. It's just that by the time computer science came around, the term computer engineering had already been taken. But computer science is really just engineering or problem solving of computer software, right? Problem solving of computer hardware. That's all these are, guys. So don't get intimidated by the names, because all they are is just problem solving of whatever you're talking about. And so with that in mind, we can come up with the problems that we're going to be solving for chemistry and biology, right? We're talking about a lot of pharmaceuticals. We're talking about a lot of patient-focused care here. This is where our biomedicine really focuses. Does anybody know what the #1 killer of Americans is? Go ahead and throw your guesses in the chat box here. And while you guys are guessing, flu, okay, that's a good one. But Logan, you have flu, and that would actually be an infectious disease. That would be, nope, that is, I believe, #2 or #3. Opioids, cancer is #3. I see a few cancers. No, we actually already got it from our wonderful host. Heart disease is the #1 killer of Americans. And it's actually by far the #1 killer of Americans. If you took 2 and 3 and combined them, you would still be #2. And so heart disease is the #1 killer of Americans. So one of the many things we could do to help stem this is we could grow our own heart tissue, right? That is one of the things that UNM actually focuses on, is growing heart tissue, both entire hearts and different parts of the hearts. Whether it's tricuspid valves, whether it's aortic valves, all these different parts of the chambers, all this different stuff has to be able to grow well. And that's one of the things that we're working on here. We're pioneering 3D printing of bone tissue, which is really cool. We do a lot of energy here. That's actually a really big one for us in chemical and biological engineering. So we focus on energy engineering in chem bio in 2 key ways. One is what's called material sciences. And basically that's just coming up with new materials to try to make existing products better. Now that can be done for anything, not just necessarily energy engineering, but we do it for energy engineering because we are trying to take solar panels and make them even more efficient. Now, we found out that platinum is hyper efficient, but platinum is also extremely expensive. So it's not scalable, right? And so what we need to do is we need to find something that we could replace platinum with, because now that we know platinum works, we take the properties of it, we reverse engineer those into a new material, and we deploy it onto these solar panels, right? So that's one area. The other area is batteries, right? Everybody thinks that batteries fall under electrical engineering, and that is understandable, but it's not actually where they should fall under. And the reason for that is batteries don't work off of electricity. Batteries work off of chemistry to produce electricity, right? And so even if you think about the name of a battery, like a lithium ion battery, that's literally describing a chemical. And so battery research is one of the key things that we're working on here, because we can produce all this energy. Like here in New Mexico, we can produce all this solar energy, right? And we have really windy parts of the Southwest in New Mexico that we can produce all this wind energy from, right? But what about Seattle? Are we just going to let Seattle fall off the map? No, we got to do something for them, right? And so that's what the batteries could be for. So that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about here with Chem and Bio. We're also talking about some really cool vaccines. We're working on an Alzheimer's vaccine, which is kind of crazy because Alzheimer's isn't even a virus. We're talking about a lot of nanomaterials. Like, this is really groundbreaking type stuff that we're working on here. And of course, a lot of environmental work. Now, we do have two departments that really focus on environmentalism. One is Chem Bio, the other is Civil and Construction. This is a good opportunity for me to transition, because the difference between environmental here and in civil is that here we're looking at the actual chemical particles of the pollution. So trying to actually do things like carbon capture from the air, or like if a mine spills into a river, like happened with the Colorado mine a few years ago, how do we actually at the chemical level clean up the water? Whereas with civil construction and environmental engineering, we're looking at the environment as a part of the infrastructure of society. So, how do we most efficiently use our water? And then how do we efficiently use it again? And then, spoiler alert, but how do we efficiently use it again and again and again and again and again, right? Because here in the desert, we have to be able to use our water several times. How do we make sure that we put our factories in the best places so that way they're not polluting directly into the water, right? Or for example, let's take flood zones, right? Here in New Mexico, we don't necessarily need to worry about flooding, right? When was the last time serious flood damage happened here in New Mexico? In my lifetime, I can't really think of it. It might have happened, but there's not really serious flooding that happens here in New Mexico. But the reason that we have to worry about floods here is it's actually twofold. Is one, obviously, we're a desert state. So we know if it's going to flood in a certain area, we should go collect that water, right? We should put something there to go collect it. But two is it actually comes down to cow poop. And the reason that we care about cow poop is it can actually over nutrient the rivers. And what that means is it would give too much food for things like the algae in the river. So in other words, if you put too much of the ammonia from the cow poop into the river for the algae to eat, then you will grow a bunch of algae in there. And that algae depends on oxygen to survive. Since it depends on oxygen to survive, it will, if it consumes all the oxygen, it could actually kill the fish. And so you could end up with dead zones in the river. And you actually have a few dead zones up in the Great Lakes because of things exactly like this. And so what we don't want to happen is for the farmers to be piling their manure in certain spots, and then for that spot to be actually a flood zone, that water to then run off into the river and carry that manure with it and end up killing our river, right? So that's one of the big reasons why we actually care about flood control here. Even though it has nothing to do with flood damage or anything like that, we need to make sure our water and our rivers are safe. We do a lot of drone use in construction. So when you're examining buildings, it can be really hard to get everywhere and see everywhere from the human perspective, and make sure that there's not cracks or anything like that. And so they're using drones to fly up to these different areas that can be hard to examine, so that way we can get a better look at them. Plus, they can examine them, using different light filters, ultraviolet or infrared, and see if there's any hidden kind of micro cracks developing that we might not have seen. We also do, of course, a lot of different construction materials, right? This is a big one coming up. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but NASA is planning on taking us back to the moon by 2025, and then establishing a lunar base by about 2030. Well, we can't just drop a building. We can't build a building here on planet Earth and fly it up to the moon and drop it on the moon, right? Like that's just a bad way and a quick way to get a crash landing, right? And so what they're looking at doing is 3D printing what they need to up on the moon. And so we're trying to come up with a composite material that would actually be similar enough that we could figure out how to 3D print using lunar soil. So that's exactly what we're looking at doing. How many student staff are in the robotics department? We don't have a specific robotics department, but in computer engineering, which would be the closest one we have to a robotics department, you're looking at about 300 students and about 40 faculty members off the top of my head. Is your engineering program connected to an internship or a co-op? Absolutely, a ton of them, and I will get to those here in a second. So computer science, like I said, this is pure software here, guys. Now we do, one thing that we're actually doing that I think is really cool is they look at anything with a programming language. And by that, we're including things like genetics, because genetics is nothing more than a programming language, right? And so we're talking about, or they're talking about taking non-harmful viruses to the human body and trying to be able to reprogram them to be able to identify and kill cancer cells in the human body. That would, in effect, be pretty much a universal cure for cancer. Now, the bad news is we're very, very, very far away from that becoming reality. But the good news is we're now close enough that we can actually start pursuing that as a path. And so under more traditional ideas of what we do as computer science, we do quantum computing. Quantum computing is really cool. It doesn't use binary computing. It's actually the opposite of binary computing, because instead of using fixed points of ones and zeros, it actually uses the infinite space between 1 and 0 to process computing information. We do a lot of computer vision systems. So this is kind of what I was talking about earlier with improved graphics, improved cameras. We do, of course, a lot of animation, digital media, all of that. We do, of course, safer internet protocols, making the internet a safer place. Everything moved online, including crime. And so, you know, we want to make sure that we can stop those people who are doing, you know, terrible things that are happening on the internet. And that's one of the things, you know, in 2017, the CIA actually named us their first select school because we're so talented at, you know, doing exactly that, fighting internet crime and making sure that the internet is a safer place for everybody. We also do, of course, computer immunology, which means making sure that your computers and your phones and your tablets and all that aren't getting viruses on them. So, you know, we do a whole lot of things that are really cool that are happening here. Now, like I said, computer science, software, computer engineering, that makes this the hardware side of this, right? So all of the hardware that you have in front of you, all of the computers, all of the mice, all of the keyboards, all of your cell phones, all of that kind of stuff, your Wi-Fi router, everything that's there, all of the wiring in your house was done by a computer or by an electrical and computer engineer. We're also talking about virtual reality and augmented reality. We're talking about communication networks. So in the future, self-driving cars might be able to communicate with each other, right? Without us even being involved. They communicate with each other that they're going to change lanes, that they're going to, one of them is going to go at a stop sign, you know, that they're going to pick up speed or slow down speed, all this kind of different stuff. So that way, you know, the other cars can adjust safely. Those are the kind of communication networks that we're talking about. Of course, we're also talking about self-flying drones and self-driving cars, programming all of those. Of course, better graphics chips, the actual chips themselves, power, energy source, all of this kind of stuff does fall here under electrical and computer engineering that we are studying. So, mechanical engineering. This is the easiest one to define. Because simply put, if would software development fall under computer science or computer engineering? Probably computer science, but there are lots of examples of it falling under computer engineering. It depends on the exact software you're looking to develop. Now, mechanical engineering here, and that was a great question, by the way. Mechanical engineering, like I said, easiest to define. If it moves, it's mechanical, right? Now, there is nothing we have found in the universe, and I don't mean, I'm not being hyperbolic here. There is absolutely nothing in the universe we have found that doesn't move. Even the most remote stationary parts of the universe we have found have had some movement in them, because everything has at least some temperature to it, right? And temperature is nothing more than movement. And so everything moves in some kind of significant way, which means mechanical engineers are involved in everything in some kind of significant way. And so we're talking about, again, robotics here. We're talking about heating, biotech. So we're talking about drug delivery systems. Because let's just say you came up with the perfect cure for, we'll say, brain cancer, but you can't deliver your drug, your cure, into the brain. Then you didn't really do anything, unfortunately. We, of course, manufacturing efficiency, right? Every company will love you if you can save them money on their manufacturing. Making things more efficient in terms of energy sources. So, making wind generators. If they can move easier with less force, that means they can produce more energy. Vibrations is a big one, right? Because vibrations are, again, nothing more than movement. So dynamic systems, which is, things that should be staying still, but end up moving anyway. So things like a building in an earthquake or people in a car crash, right? It's very important that we figure those out. Artificial limbs, right? Those are a big part of what we want to be able to move. Strength of materials is a really important one, because oftentimes strength of materials, you want them to be not overly strong, but also, of course, not too weak, right? And so a good example of that, actually, I mentioned, is people in car accidents. You actually want the material of the car to be able to kind of crush like a soda can. If it's a still structure, it's not going to be able to do that. That's too strong. And so that's why they actually go with a little bit of a weaker material, is so that way the car intentionally can kind of crush like a soda can. And the reason it does that, if you guys are curious, is so that way the energy goes around the passengers in the car. That way, instead of it going straight into the passengers in the car, and it helps you guys avoid the majority of the energy in a car crash. Now, something I want to make clear first, real quick, is everything I'm about to tell you applies to all of our departments. It's just easiest for me to explain it under the guise of mechanical engineering, but we have these kind of programs for all 6 of our departments. But with that in mind, like I said, it's easiest to describe it with our mechanical engineering. So what you guys are looking at there in terms of these pictures is 3 of our senior design programs. That is our Lobo launch team, our Solar Splash team, and our Formula One team. All 3 of these vehicles were built, manufactured, and designed 100% by UNM students, by seniors in our program. They're all extremely talented teams at their respective most recent national/international competitions. All 3 of them actually took 3rd. So again, they are extremely talented teams. Again, built, designed, fabricated 100% by UNM students. So you get the opportunity here to be very, very, very hands-on. This is the culmination of your senior year. But again, all of our programs have some kind of design program like this, where you get to do something really cool like this. There's also another option that I kind of call the Build-A-Bear option, where basically you get to put together your own senior design program based off of whatever you're interested in, and a faculty member will help you do it from there. Now, there is an obvious implication to that. that I told you our seniors get to do these really cool senior design programs. The obvious implication is that our freshmen through our juniors aren't getting to do anything cool at all. But that, I am happy to tell you, is not true. Because we here at UNM absolutely believe that our engineering students should be doing engineering from day one. And so with that in mind, what you guys are looking at there is Dr. Robert Bush at our nuclear reactor here on campus. We do have a nuclear reactor here on campus. It's an AGN 201M, if you guys want to look that up. And basically, our freshmen through our seniors in our nuclear engineering program actually get to use this. And similarly, throughout all of our programs, our engineers are doing hands-on type work all the way through. Now, here in nuclear engineering, again, you're using a nuclear reactor. It puts out about 5 thermal watts of energy, which is about 1 bunny rabbit's worth of heat. So not a lot here. It's not dangerous at all. It's really cool because your senior year, you actually get to pull it apart and put it back together with your own hands. And, you know, if you can find me something more hands-on than that, I would love to know, because I think playing with a nuclear reactor is pretty much about as hands-on as it gets. Now, here at UNM, our nuclear engineering focuses on 3 key things. 1, next generation nuclear energy and safety. So what can we do with energy? How can we make it safer? How can we make it more efficient? And what can we do with some of the outputs of it? And what I mean by that is nuclear energy, nuclear fission produces a lot of heat, like a lot of heat. And so with that in mind, right now, the heat just dissipates into the atmosphere. What if we did something with it? Like, what if we desalinated water? Or what if we used that heat to produce ammonia for our farms, right? There's a lot of things we could do with it instead of just letting it go off, because that heat is energy. So why aren't we doing something with it? 2 is nuclear energy in space. So I mentioned Project Artemis earlier to you guys, going to the moon, building a lunar base, off to Mars after that. That is going to be a nuclear propelled and nuclear performed mission. They're going to put a nuclear reactor on the moon. That is part of the lunar base establishing. We study that. That is one of our key areas that we absolutely study in partnership with the Air Force Research Lab. So that is a key thing. We have one of the premier institutes on that. It's called Msmes. And all they do is study nuclear propulsion in space and nuclear reactivity in space. It's led by Dr. Mohammed Al-Gank, one of the premier researchers in the field. You guys have probably heard the phrase, yeah, he wrote the book on it. Well, quite literally with Dr. Al-Gank, he wrote the book on it. I mean, and that you're going to find that across UNM a lot. That's the level that a lot of our faculty members that you get to work with are at. And the third key thing that we study is nuclear medicine. And nobody ever thinks of medicine being nuclear until the word cancer comes up, because then it's radiation treatments, it's CT scans, X-rays, that kind of stuff. And we will, of course, want to make sure that that's effective and efficient as possible, right? The less time a patient is sick, the better. And the better odds that we have of curing them, of course, the better, right? So those are key things that we are, those are the 3 keys. Those are the 3 key things that we are working towards right now. Now, one thing that I think is very important to mention to you guys is you guys are going to struggle in college. The good news is that's not a bad thing. That's actually part of the plan, right? It's just part of the challenges of college. You guys are going to struggle. That's part of it. But we plan for that because we know that that's going to happen. And so we have what's called the Engineering Student Success Center, where we have basically all of the resources that a college can offer boiled down for engineering only. And so actually earlier I got the question connected to internships. One of our key areas is getting you guys connected to internships. And if you guys, if you guys kind of look around the state of New Mexico, what's around us here at UNM? 2 national labs, all 3 private space companies, Facebook, Netflix, Intel, thank you. There's a lot around us, right? And so we are absolutely connected at the hip with every single one of these, plus a million more to make sure we get you guys the internships that you guys are interested in. Yeah, I believe Boeing does have some stuff out here. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but yeah, we have a lot of this kind of going on here. The job market for our graduates, let's put it this way. When Intel had the choice to either close their factory in Rio Rancho and move it off to countries where they can manufacture them much cheaper, or keep them here to hire our graduates, they made the choice to not only keep their jobs here, but to double down and double the amount of engineering jobs they have here because of how many high quality students that they're getting from UNM. So that's not just Intel. You got to remember, like I said, all three private space companies are here, right? Well, how old is private space as a industry? It's like 10 years old. So for all three of them to choose to be here is, again, a statement about the fact that they want to hire from UNM. And the counter argument that I've often heard for that is, well, you guys have big, nice open skies. Yeah, well, Montana is quite literally called big sky country. They're not up there. They are here in New Mexico for a reason. So, these companies choose to be by us for a reason. So we also have first year experience and academic success workshops, things that can help you guys out with that. Mentoring an undergraduate research program. This actually helps with getting our students into the job market, where we actually take our alumni network and help you kind of connect into those. Because you've probably heard the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I disagree with that to the extent that it does matter what you know, but it does matter who you know as well. And so we get you into contact with the people you should know. Again, specific financial aid and scholarship, all these kinds of things, specific tutoring. So that way you guys don't have to go to the library and hope that the psych major working there can help you guys with your very high level calculus homework. Because I can tell you, I, as the psych major, cannot help you with your very, very high level calc homework. So we got you all the stuff that you guys will need to success, because yes, we know college is hard. That's kind of the point of it, but we know you can do it. And so that's the point of us. Most popular department in engineering is either, right now it's either mechanical engineering or computer science. On a year-to-year basis, it kind of switches back and forth. We do have great student organizations as well, guys. So when I talk about student organizations, I mean everything from fraternities to the chess club to all kinds of different things. Now, what I'm going to be talking about here are the engineering professional organizations. I really don't recommend necessarily a fraternity. I'll let you guys figure this one out on your own, but I went to college 2 times. The first time I was in a fraternity, the second time I succeeded. I'll let you guys do the math on how that one went. And so I really recommend you guys join a professional organization. So these are things that are on par with something like the American Medical Association, except on the engineering side of things. So some of these are single disciplinary, so such as the American Nuclear Society. Obviously, you got to be a nuclear engineer to be in it. But then some of them on the other side are things like the Society of Enabled Engineer. Big fan of that one. I'm actually the staff sponsor of that one, so you guys should come check that one out. But, American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, National Society of Black Engineers, these are great organizations that help you get more scholarships, help you get connected in the field, help you just kind of become a better engineer overall, help you kind of navigate the university life, that kind of stuff. So I really recommend you guys join one of these groups, or when you guys go to college, if you guys decide not to go into engineering, join, if you guys, go psychology, join the APA, the student chapter of the APA, the American Psychological Association, join whatever is the appropriate professional organization for your major. It can absolutely make the difference between you succeeding. Does the College of Engineering accept dual credit from different universities? I can't say 100% yes, but to the general question, yes, but we don't accept 100% of them. It just kind of depends on the exact class that we're talking about. We work very, very hard to accept as many of them as possible. But again, I can't guarantee 100% that we'll accept every credit. Now, I will say this: if you're getting it from within the state of New Mexico, there is close to 100% chance that we will accept it. Again, I can't absolutely promise that, but there's very, very little nowadays that doesn't transfer between universities here in the state, with the exception of majors that another university has that we don't. So for example, I know Eastern New Mexico has sports management. We don't have sports management, so their sports management classes wouldn't transfer here. But in terms of engineering, seeing as how we all have engineering, I'd be shocked if some of those classes don't transfer over. So the last thing I want to talk to you guys about, if any of you guys are seniors, is we do have an incoming freshman scholarship. February 1st is the deadline on that one. So go ahead and just reach out to us and we'll get you going on that one. And then of course, if you guys have any questions, you guys want to check out what's going on with UNM's COVID stuff, just feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to talk to you about any of it. The last thing I meant to include it on here, I apologize. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share. I'm going to grab one last link for you guys real quick because I do want to throw it into the chat box. Where did my mouse go? There we go. UNM Engineering. This is the correct page. This is not the correct page. This is the correct page. If you guys want to take any tours of UNM, please just go ahead, or of UNM Engineering, please fill out the form that I threw into the chat box. And I will be happy to take a look at it and figure out, the best way to get you guys tours. We can do labs, we can do campus, we can do whatever you guys are wanting to see and get you going from there. Do we apply directly in the School of Engineering or the University of New Mexico itself? You apply to UNM and then you mark whatever major you're interested in. You enter in as a pre-major of whatever you're interested in. So we'll say mechanical engineering. So you'd become a pre-mechanical engineer. And basically that doesn't really mean anything to you as the student. It's kind of a paperwork thing on the back end for us because you still get 100% of the resources that we can offer you. So it doesn't mean anything. And honestly, most students, when they go from being a pre-mechanical to a full-fledged mechanical engineer, a lot of them don't even realize that the transition has actually happened. And that's kind of how it is across UNM. My wife is actually currently working on her business degree, and she was a pre-business student, and now she's a business student, and she did not realize that the transition had even happened at all. And apparently it happened like a year ago. So it's just, it's a paperwork thing again that we have to take care of on the back end for us. What lab opportunities does UNM have for freshman or sophomore engineering students? Glad you asked. So I'm going to share with you guys a little story. I talked with the chair of electrical and computer engineering, and I asked him how many opportunities, basically your question, how many opportunities does your department have for your students, regardless of their grade level? And his answer was, I don't know. And I went, what do you mean you don't know? I kind of feel like the chair of the department should know the answer to that. And his answer was, we don't know because we've never hit the number. Whatever the max capacity is, they haven't hit it. So, and that's kind of how it is across the board in our engineering departments. If freshmen and sophomores want to be in labs, they can absolutely get into the labs. I know, for example, the chair of chemical and biological engineering has a no policy. In other words, what that means is if a student wants an opportunity, he will not say no to them, even if they're freshmen or sophomores. And that's kind of how it is across the board. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean these are paid opportunities. I do want to kind of emphasize that. You might have to start out as a volunteer, but you could be volunteering in very high level labs right off the bat. And even with that in mind, I also know that Dr. Nick Ferenchek of the Civil Construction and Environmental Engineering, he runs the Transportation Engineering Institute here at UNM. Last time I talked to him, which was about 6 months ago, he said he had about 10 to 15 spots open for students at that moment. And they're basically continuously open spots because he just can't hire enough students. to do all the work. He has grants on the back burner ready to go that he just can't get enough students to go. So if students want opportunities here, we have a ton of opportunities here. How big are classes for freshman, sophomore engineering students? So I'm going to change your question a little bit. So, and the reason I'm going to do that is the question really is at UNM. It's more how big are classes for freshmen and sophomores, because you're still at that point taking so many of the kind of general classes that UNM makes you take, and the answer is kind of a broad range, unfortunately. So, for example, if you take Psych 101, you could be looking at like 150 kids to 200 kids, whereas you could also be taking, like, we'll say Mechanical Engineering 101, which could be a 30-person class, or you could be taking, like, if you're already into Calculus 1, that could be 25 kids. So it's kind of a broad range of numbers, but once you get kind of past that initial wave of first classes, of first kind of generic classes or core courses is what UNM calls them, you're pretty much going into classes that are about 20 to 25 students. So it's really just about, from my time in college, I remember it being about 5 classes that were really big, and the rest of them were anywhere in that 15 to 25 range, mostly kind of 20 to 25 range. One last question. What is the highest paying job in the field of engineering now? Nuclear medical physicist would be the highest paying job on that one because it's the most highly specialized. I would also, though, encourage you not necessarily to worry about how much you're going to get paid as an engineer. And the reason I say that is engineers get paid. Pick a field, any field, they get paid. That's just kind of the way it goes there, is engineers get paid well, regardless of the field. And the one of the perks of being an engineer as compared to the scientific kind of matching fields. So when I say that, what I'm talking about is like a chemist versus a chemical engineer, or a biologist versus a biological engineer, is one, there's more jobs on the engineering side of this, and two, the annual average salary is higher on the engineering side of this as well. The data bears that out very clearly. What engineering degrees does UNM offer past bachelor's degrees? We offer, for starters, we offer an MBA, which I know is not an engineering degree, but a lot of engineers like to get it. So I always mention it. We do offer those, like I said. We offer two. I always encourage engineering students to look at what other non-engineering fields they can get into. So, for examples, a lot of kids who are wanting to get into the medical field would do great to do biomedical engineering as well, because that'll really get them into that MD path, or even DDS, JD, which is a law degree. So you can really use an engineering degree to get past or get into any of those other non-engineering professions. I really encourage students to look at that. Now, to answer your more specific question, we also do offer MS, MEs, which is Masters of Science, Master of Engineering, and of course, PhDs in every single one of our departments. And we offer a bunch of crossovers. So we offer MS, MEs, PhDs in biomedicine, in nanoscience, in nanomaterials, in environmental engineering, and honestly, a whole bunch of them that are kind of crossovers between different departments. Because like I said, a lot of these are just kind of too complex for the bachelor's level. We start really getting students into them at that master's level. Any other questions, guys? What are some things as a freshman in high school I could start doing to set myself up for a successful college experience? So really, again, what I talked about earlier, start being curious about absolutely everything. Start figuring out how everything is connected. Start preparing yourself for math courses that might be a little bit difficult. Start making yourself comfortable with being uncomfortable with certain topics of courses, like, hey, I'm not really good at that particular science, I think I'll avoid it. No, tackle that science. Go challenge that science. Really in terms of the specifics, if you can be done with pre-calculus and trigonometry by the time you get to college, that would be wonderful. We don't absolutely require it, but our plans do work better if you're already good to go. And come to our summer programs. We don't have the exact dates on those yet, but I do send those out to MESA as soon as I get those. And I know the dates on and details on those are coming. So come to some of our summer programs as well. Also talk to Sandia and Los Alamos National Lab, because they also have summer programs and summer internships that you guys might be able to qualify for. I don't know like really any details at all about theirs. I just know that they exist. So talk to them and see what you can do through there. Start making connections in the engineering field. Start Googling, what does a mechanical engineer do? And then, call mechanical engineers and be like, hey, what do you do? What are you interested in? That kind of stuff. I know it sounds kind of generic and vague, but it's really the best advice I can give you over and over again is be curious, pursue your curiousness, your curiosity. There's a word for that. What would you say to a student who might be successful in engineering, but says, I don't like math, or I'm not good at math? For students who say, I don't like math, you probably do like math. You probably don't like the way it's taught. Because I've seen a lot of people, and I was one of them, who was like, I don't like math. And then I started seeing some really cool stuff being done with math. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in love with math. Who knew? And two, I'm not good at math. No, you're not good at things you're not interested in. And so if you're not interested in the way math is being taught, then you're probably not good at that particular type of math. But if we taught math in a more interesting way, we could actually get you to be good at math. There's a lot of psychological background on that, a lot of psychological research on that. And so we just need to change up the way we're teaching you math. Now, here at UNM, we actually tend to be pretty good at teaching math. And so for the students who say, I'm not good at math, we can teach you math. We're good at that. That's the whole point of a university is we don't expect you to be good at math because we're going to teach you math. The important part is we know you're not good at math. We just need you to be able to learn math. That's the important part. Does UNM Engineering have any bridge programs for high school seniors to UNM freshmen? We do have a bridge course that can it's sort of a general engineering course that's designed for students who know they want to do engineering but don't know what type of engineering they want to do. And so the metaphor I always make, how do you figure out what your favorite type of engineering is, well, how did you figure out what your favorite type of cookie was? You tried them all. And so this is kind of an opportunity to try all the cookies and see which one you like best. So I also realized that I am now making a lot of food metaphors, so I guess it's lunchtime. So that works perfect. But if you guys did not already see it, the link for the Survey Monkey got put into the chat link, so please make sure you guys fill that out. And otherwise, it is now 3 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up my time. But if you guys have any questions, I'll go ahead and throw my information into here one more time. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Toby, for what a fun-filled session. And I've been working with MESA for 5 years, and I feel like every time I participate in discussion with UNM College of Engineering, I learned something brand new. So thank you for this. I learned something brand new again today. So thanks for that.
Thanks,
Also, everybody, he means it when he says to contact him. UNM College of Engineering really does want to hear from you. So make sure you reach out with your questions if you have an interest in attending UNM in the future. And with that, if you have any other questions, please feel free to, I'll stay on for a couple of minutes on the Zoom link, but we'll give it 5 minutes and then wrap up. If you have any other questions, please make sure you get in contact with Toby, or you can contact Anita or me, and we will do our best to point you in the right direction. Please fill out that survey and to make sure you get participation credit. And I think that's it from us. Thank you for your time, everyone. There's a link one more time in case you didn't catch it.